decidedly dull fashion. The alternative was finding an accountant who was not only capable of taking the Society of Beasts by its financial scruff, but one who could be trusted not to extort, reveal, or otherwise inconvenience its members. Not for the first time, Benjamin wondered if it wouldn't be simpler to run a good old-fashioned molly house. As he took a large swig of beer, the man in the corner was still looking at him. Molly houses were amusing. There was no denying that, although he hadn't visited one in years. They were also rather simple to run. They were pubs with added frills, or brothels with an extensive selection of drinks. The hierarchy was complex, yes, but all hierarchies were. The real problem with molly houses was that there were already too many of them. Once there had been no club, no moneyed space for gentlemen who loved gentlemen. No elegant halls where men could sit in repose, speaking and acting as they chose to, free of society's chains that kept them so tightly bound in other aristocratic spaces. There had been no confessional, no space of succour, no legal and financial help for those suspected of illegal acts, or worse, accused of them. But the society provided all that, and more. Gentlemen from far and wide wrote letters begging to join, desperate for the protection and comfort such an environment could give. Benjamin, responsible for the stringent entry requirements, had to write dozens of refusals every month. Not many men were rich enough, and hardly any of them met the requirement of valour in the absence of funds. Only those who saved a society member from certain death gained automatic entry. Benjamin, who enjoyed risking his life in war, never risked it in peacetime, especially not in the company of other people. Neither did most of the society members, who preferred a quiet if bureaucratic life. He took another slow look around the pub. Yes, the man was still looking at him, and unless Benjamin was very much mistaken, he was smiling. No one approached him in the King's Head. No one looked at him in the King's Head, which is why he came so often, and why he brought society work with him. Half of the men in the place couldn't read, and none of them cared what he liked or what he didn't, or who he loved or who he didn't. The man in the corner looked interested. Interested in the sight of Benjamin sitting here, hunched over his papers. Interested in the legend, or the man, or both. Benjamin, trying to study the man out of the corner of his eye, couldn't remember the last time he'd been stared at in such a knowing, brazen manner. Be careful. He had to protect himself. There were many men with unscrupulous hearts in need of coin, ready to speak to any writer of gossip rags. But this man lacked the hungry look of those who tried in the past. He looked content. Content to be exactly who he was, doing exactly what he was doing. Enough. No more staring. Benjamin took another slower sip of weak, sour beer. The stranger, whoever he was, didn't look anything like a typical King's Head drinker. Benjamin had chosen this particular pub for several reasons. It was dingy, quiet, and close to headquarters without being close enough to attract suspicion. The men who drank here were not the swollen-headed upstarts who would attack or insult a man like Benjamin to win prestige. Being a war hero had many downsides, but the most irritating one had to be half of London's petty criminals treating one as a walking target. Benjamin didn't like having to crack a skull whenever he went for a beer. He liked drinking and working in the company of men who had seen what he had seen. Soldiers of old wars, old suffering. Men who'd seen such violence, such degradation in the name of eventual victory, that they wished to do nothing more than drink and sit in companionable silence. Fuente de Añoro.